Welcome back to G Fun Facts Online, your go-to spot for fascinating science. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that's all over the news, those groundbreaking weight loss drugs. You've probably heard of them, often starting as treatments for diabetes, but now making headlines for their incredible effects on shedding pounds. We're talking about GLP-1 receptor agonists, or GLP-1 RAs for short. But it's not just about feeling less hungry. What's truly mind-blowing is how these medications can actually change what foods you crave, what you enjoy, and what you suddenly can't stand. So how exactly do they rewire our relationship with food? Let's find out. First off, the most well-known effect. GLP-1 RAs significantly slash your appetite. Users often report feeling less hungry overall, and that nagging desire for specific foods, whether salty, spicy, fatty, sweet, or savory, just fades away. Those intense cravings for starchy foods like bread and pasta, or even dairy products, much weaker. It becomes easier to say no thanks and control what you eat. A big reason for this is that these drugs slow down how quickly your stomach empties. Imagine your stomach holding onto food a bit longer, sending "I am full" signals to your brain for an extended period. Makes sense, right? But it gets even more interesting. It's not just about fullness. Your actual sense of taste might change. Recent research, particularly with a GLP-1 RA called semaglutide, suggests these medications can tinker with gene expression in your tongue, the very genes related to how you perceive taste. They can even alter how your brain responds to sweet tastes. This could be a key reason why many people on these drugs find sugary snacks and calorie-dense foods far less appealing than before. Imagine your favorite super sweet dessert suddenly tasting just meh. Now, let's talk about the brain's reward system. This is where things get really fascinating. Think of this system as the part of your brain that says, "Ooh, that cake looks delicious. Eat it. It'll make you feel good." GLP-1 receptors are actually found in key areas of this reward circuit, like the ventral tegmental area, VTA, and the nucleus accumbens, NAC. When GLP-1 RAs activate these receptors, they seem to dial down the reward value of those super tempting, highly palatable foods. The motivation to even go looking for them diminishes. Another crucial player is the amygdala, specifically the central amygdala. It seems GLP-1 RAs recruit special neurons here, which then put the brakes on eating tasty foods by reducing the release of dopamine, that feel-good chemical, in the nucleus accumbens. This pathway appears particularly important for stopping what we call hedonic feeding, which is eating for pleasure rather than hunger, and scientists have seen this in action. Functional MRI, or fMRI studies, show that people using GLP-1 RAs have a less excited brain response when they see pictures of food. This is especially true in those reward and appetite centers like the amygdala, insula, and orbitofrontal cortex. The allure just isn't as strong. Beyond just rewards, GLP-1 RAs also tap into the brain's more traditional command centers for hunger and fullness, the hypothalamic and hindbrain networks. These areas are like the body's thermostats, controlling metabolic balance and telling you when you're satisfied. For instance, GLP-1 producing neurons in a part of the brainstem called the nucleus tractus solitarius, or NTS, send signals to various brain regions involved in controlling automatic body functions, feeding, and motivation. Then there are the arcuate nucleus, ARC, and paraventricular nucleus, PVN, in the hypothalamus key spots where GLP-1 RAs work to reduce food intake. How? GLP-1 directly activates neurons called POMC/CART neurons, which are like the stop eating messengers. And it indirectly tells another set of neurons, the NPY-AGRP neurons, which are the go eat messengers, to quiet down. Our bodies actually make their own GLP-1. It's released by special L cells in our intestines when we eat. This natural, gut-derived GLP-1 is a messenger, signaling to the brain, sometimes through the vagus nerve, and sometimes by directly reaching certain brain areas to tell us we're full and satisfied. GLP-1 RAs essentially mimic and supercharge these natural signals. So, the drugs are amplifying a conversation that's already happening between your gut and your brain, making the IM full message loud and clear. Now, it's not all smooth sailing for everyone. While these drugs are great at reducing food intake, they can also cause nausea or a general feeling of aversion to food in some people. And yes, this feeling of, ugh, I don't want to eat that, can definitely contribute to eating less. The central nucleus of the amygdala, which we mentioned earlier, is also thought to be involved in this GLP-1-induced aversion. However, it's interesting because research also shows that activating GLP-1 receptors in other brain areas, like the VTA and nucleus accumbens, can reduce food intake without causing nausea. So it's a bit complex, and the vagus nerve might also play a role in some of these less pleasant aversive effects. So what specific foods do people on these drugs tend to shy away from? Well, studies and user reports paint a pretty consistent picture. There's a reduced desire for high-fat foods, think greasy burgers and fries, super sweet foods and sugary drinks, soda, anyone, salty snacks, spicy dishes, starchy refined grains like white bread and pasta, many dairy products, and generally processed foods. Even preferences for certain meats, like beef and sometimes pork, can decrease. And interestingly, many report less interest in alcohol and even fruit juice. On the flip side, what might people lean towards, or at least find their desire for less reduced? Often, it's things like fruits, leafy greens, and plain old water. Lean proteins like poultry and fish, and legumes like beans and lentils also seem to remain appealing or become more so. There's a quirky finding from some animal studies suggesting that one GLP-1RA, semaglutide, might paradoxically increase the consumption of low to mid-range sugary solutions. This is definitely something that needs more research in humans to understand what's going on there. Okay, that was a lot of brain science. So let's quickly recap how these GLP-1 agonists work their magic on our food choices. First, many of them can directly enter the brain or act on areas with easier access to engage GLP-1 receptors there. Second, they powerfully modulate the brain's reward pathways, making those super tasty, often unhealthy foods seem less exciting and desirable. Third, they activate homeostatic pathways, essentially cranking up the volume on your body's natural IM full signals. Fourth, they might even directly change how we perceive tastes. And fifth, for some individuals, they can induce a feeling of aversion or nausea, which naturally leads to avoiding certain foods. While the weight loss results of GLP-1RAs are pretty clear, scientists are still working hard to untangle all the complex neurobiological details. The more we understand these pathways, the better we can refine treatments, create personalized interventions, and maybe even develop brand new therapies for obesity and related health issues. And get this, the insights we're gaining could potentially help with other conditions too, especially those characterized by a haywire reward system like substance use disorders. That's a really exciting prospect. Of course, more research is crucial. We need long-term studies that use objective measurements to track food intake and fully grasp all the subtle ways these drugs alter our eating habits over time. So there you have it, a glimpse into the incredible ways GLP-1 receptor agonists are not just helping people lose weight, but are fundamentally reshaping their preferences, cravings, and their entire relationship with food by talking directly to the brain. It's a powerful demonstration of the intricate connections between our gut, our brain, and our behavior. What does this mean for the future of treating obesity and understanding appetite? The possibilities are vast, and science is only just scratching the surface. Thanks for tuning into G Fun Facts Online. Stay curious, and we'll catch you next time with more fascinating facts.